Hey guys, this is Reginald Glenn. I'm here with Ken Wilson, who is running for mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. And as you can see right here, we are out in the community. We are here at the intersection of Hollingsworth and Lily Street, which is just off of Woodrow Wilson. And as you look around, you can see there's a lot of blight. You can see there's trash everywhere. You can see that there's an abandoned houses. There are a few that are just around us, just within sight here. Ken, as you see blight like this, how does it make you feel knowing that there is blight all around our city just like this?
All right. So thank you for having me, Reggie. I think it's a challenge for us. It's concerning. Our community shouldn't look like this. I think that it's very sad that we're allowed the conditions to get like this. We have blighted homes, clearly, dumping, abandoned properties, and our streets are, as you can see, needs resurfacing and all those things. We have potholes, and I'm sure there's some sewage somewhere to follow. So it's concerning. It's concerning.
It's definitely concerning. And when you look at blight like this, and you recognize how concerning it is, people sometimes we can kind of see some visual effects on our community.
Right.
But can you tell people how does it overall impact our city as a whole?
Well, it impacts the city a lot because number one, we have to worry about vagrants coming into the homes. I think that's very important. Yeah. We think about the vagrants coming into the homes. They'll come in, and sometimes crime starts in these areas. So that's another issue for our law enforcement officers. In addition to our firefighters, it'll get cold, and clearly they'll come into the properties and light fires and things like that, just to try to stay warm. The homeless people do, so it becomes a hazard. But we have done this for about 10 years, trying to keep the community clean. This is not something that I just started. Myself and others and other neighborhood associations, we've tried to keep the community clean, but this also has a lot to do with city operations. The Public Works Department is supposed to follow up on things like these. This is when I talk about community improvement. This is the part of the improvement phase that I'm talking about. We have to get these homes torn down that cannot be rehabbed. I know there's an environmental court, and the process is methodical at times. We've done a lot of projects like that, and I know the paperwork can be tedious, and you have to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But I'm certain that these homes have been here longer than 6 months. I'm almost certain than that. And we just have to be better. What worries me more, we don't have a public works director. He resigned several months ago. And that is, that's a serious issue, primarily because the public works budget is the highest budget in the city. It deals with our water billing. It deals with our sewage. It deals with all of these issues that are plaguing this city, and we don't have someone leading the way. I know Dr. Williams has become interim at this time, but we don't have the public works director that we hired in the beginning and paid our tax dollars to lead this city out of this decimated infrastructure and all of the issues that are plaguing us.
And so I think you were kind of leaning into this a little bit, but how can you see yourself? How could we improve this? How can we make this better? Because obviously, blight like this doesn't really belong in our city. We shouldn't be able to go down the street and see things like this along the street, let alone the conditions of the street or anything else as far as the abandoned houses. How do you see yourself improving the communities around Jackson in removing this blight, as well as other ideas regarding that?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would hire a public works director. We don't have one.
Right.
When we have an interim, Dr. Williams, he's probably doing the best he can, but we don't have one. That's the most expensive budget here in the city. So that's the first thing that's the first business of order. The second thing we're going to do, we're going to get out here, we're going to rebuild public works. Public works should be doing the day-to-day maintenance in this city.
Yeah.
We're outsourcing too much. Clearly we have a certain amount of contracts and things we have to outsource because we can't do everything within our capacity. But we have things that Public Works is supposed to do. This is one of them, right? Our environmental court, we have to have a discussion about these dilapidated properties. It's bringing crime in the community, right?
It is.
So we have to get these torn down. Those that can be rehabbed, what we look to do is implement a next door plan. And we would like to do that by rehabbing homes in partnership with nonprofits to offer them to police, fire, and educators as incentives. I think that's a great way to do it, and I look forward to bringing it to Jackson when I'm selected to be the mayor of this city.
And Ken, as we've kind of, as we think about this and as we've kind of wrap up here, is there anything else you'd like to say to anybody who's watching right now?
Yeah. That help is on the way. This is nonsense. We should not be dealing with this in our city. This is not just in the Georgetown community that this is happening. This is in South Jackson, where I worked as a fireman for nearly a decade. This is in parts of North Jackson, Northwest Jackson. This is in West Jackson. We should not be allowing these conditions to occur in our community. Now, as many of you know, I'm a community organizer. We've done tons of cleanup campaigns to try to keep these communities clean. We just have to be better. We do not have to accept this. I mean, this is ridiculous. And several houses down the street are identical to this. Now, if we're not going to rehab the homes that can be rehabbed, we need to take the funding that's available and we need to tear these properties down. There is a fund that I talk about often, the Highway 18 Improvement Fund, which is about $1.4 million or more that is given by Grand Gulf to the city for the last 35 years. Those funds should be going back to Highway 18, right? But if they're not going back to Highway 18, they should be going to clean up the community. They should be for beautification processes. They should not be allocated to the general fund and used to buy brooms and mops, if you would, because you can purchase anything in the general fund when you reallocate those. So my goal when I'm selected to be mayor by the people is to get this thing cleaned up. It's just pure and simple. We have to get it cleaned up if we're going to improve Jackson. And that's part of my community improvement plan.
Good deal. Well, listen, well, thank you for your time, Ken. And if you would like to learn more about Ken and his plan for improving Jackson, all you have to do is go to votekenwilson.com.